In New York City, John Wick is still reeling from the loss of his wife, Helen, who passed away from an unnamed illness. She was the only person he truly cared about in this life, and on the same day she's buried, a courier arrives at his door with one final gift from her, a tiny beagle puppy and a letter she wrote before she died. John breaks down as he reads it. Helen knew he would be grieving, so she left him something alive to love after she was gone. Something besides his beloved Mustang. Enter Daisy, John's cute little beagle puppy friend from now on. That night, John lays a blanket on the floor as Daisy's makeshift bed before turning in himself. By morning, Daisy ignores that arrangement completely and hops onto John's bed, snuggling into his face like she's already claimed her spot. With no chance of going back to sleep, John lets her into the front yard to do her business, then pours breakfast for both of them. One bowl of cereal for him, one bowl for his new little roommate. Afterward, John pulls his precious Mustang out of the garage and takes it for a spin, with Daisy riding shotgun. They stop at a gas station where Iosef Tarasov, a spoiled rich brat who walks like he owns the planet, notices the antique 1969 Boss 429 Mustang and immediately gets a hard-on just staring at it. Without wasting a breath, Iosef offers to buy the car off him, but John shuts him down. The spaceship is not for sale. Captain Entitled doesn't take that well, insisting everything has a price, bitch. Thankfully, Iosef's henchman Victor steps in before the situation gets uglier, politely wishing John a pleasant day. With the tank full and Daisy beside him, John heads for the airport, where he lets the Mustang loose and makes sure his chick-winning drifting skills never get rusty. That night, Daisy clearly wants to sleep on the bed again, so John lets her. Somewhere in the dark, she suddenly starts growling. John assumes she needs to go outside, but the moment he follows her downstairs, he's welcomed by the heavy end of a baseball bat. Iosef and his two friends beat him through the darkness, roughing him up nice and sweet, while Daisy keeps whining helplessly in the background. The part that actually breaks everything is Victor telling Iosef to smack Daisy dead. Once they snatch the Mustang keys, Iosef reveals his arrogant face to John before leaving him unconscious on the floor. When John finally wakes up, Daisy is lying dead beside him, having crawled over with the last of her strength just to curl up next to her owner. Still trapped in shock, John wipes away the messy streaks of mostly Daisy's blood from the floor, his mind flashing between Helen, last night's assault, and the final gift he couldn't protect. Iosef, meanwhile, pulls into a chop shop with his new Mustang, looking for a VIN replacement and clean papers. The owner, Aurelio, takes one look at the car and instantly starts crashing out. He asks whether the original owner is still alive, and Iosef casually says yes before laughing about how they did a solid number on the sucker's pet dog. Aurelio laughs along for half a second, only to smack the ignorant brat across his stupid face. Iosef's lackey aims his sausage at Aurelio's forehead, but he clearly doesn't have the guts to pull the trigger. Victor drags Iosef back up, warning that his father, Viggo Tarasov, will be terribly displeased about this. Aurelio shrugs it off like pissing off Viggo is the least of his worries right now. John pulls up near the same chop shop later on a public bus, still wearing yesterday's blood-stained t-shirt like changing clothes. Never even crossed his mind. He guessed the punks would bring the Mustang here to get it revinned, and he guessed right. Except Aurelio already turned them away himself. That's when Aurelio reveals the worst part. Iosef is the son of Viggo Tarasov, a local crime boss John used to work for years ago. Aurelio is visibly anxious about what John plans to do next. For starters, John is going to need a new car. Not long after, Viggo calls Aurelio, demanding to know why his son got bitch-slapped in public. Aurelio gives him the short version. Iosef stole John Wick's car and, killed his dog. Viggo answers with one simple, "Oh." Almost like Aurelio's reaction suddenly makes perfect sense. Downstairs, Viggo's right-hand man Avi congratulates him for closing a highly favorable business deal he just forced onto one of his associates, but Viggo has no joy left on his face. He only calls for his son. When Iosef arrives, Viggo pours him a glass of wine, compliments his fine jacket, and gut punches him with a straight face. Yup, that's indeed the only reasonable follow-up after the first two. Yeah, Iosef finally connects the dots, but he's still confused. Why is everyone losing their mind over a stolen car? Viggo explains that it's not what he did, it's who he did it to. When Iosef dismisses John as a fucking nobody, Viggo corrects him immediately. That fucking nobody is John Wick. A local underworld history 101 lecture follows. Before retirement, John had a nickname, Baba Yaga. The Russian mafia called him the Boogeyman, and he earned it, especially after once cooking 3 men in a bar with nothing but a fucking pencil. Eventually, John fell in love with Helen and asked to leave the life behind. Viggo agreed, but only with a catch. The cunning old fox sent him on an an impossible mission, the kind no man alone was supposed to survive. Nobody except John, who buried enough bodies that day to lay the foundation for Viggo's entire criminal syndicate. That is the man whose dog Iosef killed, whose car he stole only days after his wife died. After hearing all that, Iosef still thinks he can fix things by finishing what he started and killing John Wick. Viggo tells him to fuck off, annoyed that the idiot didn't hear a single word. Elsewhere, John is already in his basement, smashing through the concrete to dig up his old stash of adult toys. And I don't mean the naughty kind here. Viggo calls him afterward, hoping to resolve this new misunderstanding in a civilized manner. But John doesn't even whisper a word. His silence says enough. Viggo understands there's no negotiation left, so he tells Avi to gather a crew for a night hunt. Knowing he'll be hosting uninvited guests tonight, John loads his revolver and kills the lights. The intruders slip into the house in all black, weapons ready, moving like professionals. The first three head upstairs, only for John to dismantle them with bullet-fast precision. He drops down the staircase, shoots one attacker through the gaps in cover, and catches another trying to sneak up behind him. After one tight pause, he bursts out at the next man, throws him over his shoulder, and finishes him along with another. From there, the house becomes a cleanup job before Charlie even arrives. John makes quick work of Mr. 8 and Mr. 9, then sends Mr. 10 collapsing against the glass panel. R.I.P. Mr. 10. Number 11 doesn't last either. Number 12 manages to wrestle the gun out of John's hands, only to get shoulder thrown over the counter and finished with a brutal forearm strike to the neck. The last man grabs a kitchen knife and makes one desperate attempt, but John pins him down and drives the blade back into his throat after a short struggle. Right as the bodies settle, the doorbell chimes. John cautiously opens the door to find a cop outside. Somebody obviously filed a noise complaint, except the cop starts sweating his balls off the second he recognizes John and sees the corpses behind him. Then they exchange a polite farewell, and just like that, nothing happens. Afterward, John calls in a dinner reservation for midnight at home, because who doesn't get a craving for some late-night kung pao chicken after doing away with an entire battalion of assassins single-handedly? Except the man who arrives isn't delivering food. It's an old-timer named Charlie and his crew, freelance professionals who clean up other people's dirty messes. Charlie is amused to see John back in business after all these years. John barely says anything. He just hands over a stack of gold coins, one for every corpse. Viggo isn't surprised the hit squad failed. If anything, he expected Baba Yaga to do Baba Yaga things, so he falls back to plan B, put a $2 million open bounty on John Wick's head. He also locks Iosef inside the Red Circle, a high-end nightclub with airtight security, basically luring the wolf with the hen, plan C. And because Viggo knows one plan won't be enough, he personally visits John's old friend Marcus for plan D, dangling the $2 million bone in front of him in exchange for betraying John. With Baba Yaga coming, Viggo pulls out every stop, tempting friends and enemies alike to grab a slice of John Wick's funeral cake. As soon as Viggo leaves, Marcus opens a hidden staircase cupboard and starts assembling his sniper rifle for John's assassination. Around the same time, John checks into the Continental for an indefinite stay. On his way in, he greets Miss Perkins, a fellow assassin colleague from the old days, while Karen, the hotel's dignified receptionist, welcomes Baba Yaga back after 4 long years. Inside his room, John sits with video recordings of Helen for a while, letting the quiet hit him before heading downstairs. After sliding a gold coin through the socket, he's led into the Continental's VIP bar, where he gives Miss Perkins another nod and takes a seat across from Winston, the hotel's manager. Winston advises John to rest for a while. The Continental is an international safe haven for professional assassins, and violence is strictly forbidden in every branch, including this one in New York. But John isn't here to rest. He asks about Iosef right away, and Winston immediately questions whether he really wants to do this. John was lucky enough to escape this murky business once. There's no guarantee he can walk out twice. John doesn't bend, so Winston quietly writes something on a napkin. Moments later, John steps to the bar where a pretty bartender hands him the message, Red Circle. With his target finally located, John returns to his room where he dons a bikini suit and conceals weapons inside. Meanwhile, Miss Perkins reaches out to Avi, offering to kill John inside the Continental itself. Viggo is impressed enough by her courage to double the bounty if she succeeds. While that betrayal is already taking shape, Iosef is enjoying himself inside the Red Circle's subterranean bathhouse, completely unaware that the god of death is armed to the teeth and already on his way. Kirill, Viggo's head of security, snatches Iosef's wine bottle away and mocks him for still not taking John Wick seriously. A newborn calf fears no tiger, as the saying goes. At the entrance, Kevin, the Red Circle's bouncer, is minding his own business when a black silhouette appears behind him. Instead of killing him, John simply comments that Francis has lost weight. Over 60 pounds, Francis replies. John is impressed, then tells him to take the night off, and Francis responds respectfully agrees. FYI, over 60 pounds is mob code for the number of enemies waiting for John inside the red circle. Inside, John slips into the men's restroom and corners Iosef's friend Victor. Victor doesn't give up Iosef's location easily, but a bloody nose plus a low blow to his balls helps him remember. Too bad John still refuses to let him go, because Victor is the one who ordered Daisy's death a couple nights ago. After cracking Victor's neck against the sink, John moves deeper into the club and neutralizes 2 more men on his way downstairs. He finally spots Iosef in the bathhouse, but before he can close in, some random son of a gun tackles him and somehow lasts half a minute against Baba Yaga. John pins the guy down, drops another man from a distance with his Glock 26, and finally gets a clean shot at Iosef. But instead of ending it right there, he lets Iosef see him. He lets the terror build first. Mr. Incredible Hulk jumps out of the pool to try his luck, only to suck and get folded even worse than Marvel's Endgame. Iosef panics and grabs a blonde bimbo as a meat shield, blocking John's shot from afar. How unfair. John only wants to talk, but with nothing but a towel wrapped around him, Iosef is apparently too shy to meet him. And so Romeo chases Juliet through the red circle, cutting across floor after floor while his S-grade sharpshooter skills drop men like flies. After demolishing almost 24 of Iosef's guards, John finally runs into Kirill, who shoots him straight in the stomach. Even from the floor, John uses his last bullets to headshot the egghead standing beside Kirill. He manages to sneak in close and disarm Kirill, but the fight turns brutal fast. Kirill smashes a wine bottle over John's head and sends him crashing down to the floor below. By the time John can move again, Iosef has escaped. Thinking he still has backup, Iosef calls Victor and demands to know where the fuck he is. Instead, Baba Yaga answers, Victor's dead. Just like Iosef said earlier, everything has a price. John limps his way back to the Continental, where he asks Karen for immediate medical assistance at the front desk. Inside his room, the hotel doctor stitches the gun wound shut. John refuses painkillers because apparently a glass of bourbon will cover that just fine. That night, Marcus climbs onto the rooftop across from John's room and sets up his sniper rifle for a clean shot. Through the scope, he sees Miss Perkins sneaking up on John while he's asleep and vulnerable. Instead of killing John, Marcus fires 2 inches from his head and into the pillow, warning him just in time. John barely escapes Miss Perkins's opening bullet shower, then wraps his arm sling around her neck while she chokes him back with one hand. The two grapple across the room, slamming and striking each other in every corner. Marcus wants to snipe Perkins from the rooftop, but with her and John tangled together like newlyweds, he barely has an angle. Perkins uses the chaos to her advantage, wrapping herself around John like a vice and repeatedly striking his tender bullet wound. After a vicious struggle, John finally throws her off, wraps a bedsheet around her face, sucker punches her, and sends her flying through the glass window. With John safe, Marcus bolts from the rooftop. The phone has been ringing the entire time, and when John finally answers, Karen is on the line, politely concerned about the numerous noise complaints coming from his room. John apologizes, explaining that he got stuck entertaining an uninvited guest. Miss Perkins tries crawling away while she still can, only to end up with John's sausage trained on her skull. Facing death, she finally spills what she knows. She doesn't know where Iosef is, but she gives John something almost as useful, a church that secretly fronts as a hiding place for Viggo's private stash of money and important documents. John thanks her by knocking her lights out. Harry, another old acquaintance, steps out with a gun after hearing the noise, but the moment he and John recognize each other, the tension fades. John offers him a pretty penny or two to babysit Miss Perkins until the Continental's management can deal with her for breaking the rules. But not long after John leaves, the stubborn Catwoman wakes up, dislocates her thumb to escape the handcuffs, headbutts Harry, and parks a bullet in his head through a pillow. Far away, John walks into the church, shoots the crook pretending to be a benevolent priest in the leg, and kills the rest of the guards. He drags the fake priest into the inner chamber, forcing him to open the secret vault. John lets the 2 female operators leave safely, then burns everything inside to ashes as payback against Viggo. Not long after, Viggo arrives with several black SUVs. The fake priest pays with his life for failing him, but Viggo barely has time to lose his coconuts over the damage before John starts raining hell on his men with an assault rifle. Over half a dozen bodies drop in quick succession until Kirill finally drives an SUV straight into John and sends Baba Yaga flying like a ragdoll. That's right, John Wick has been defeated. A few minutes later, John regains consciousness and has to listen to Viggo yap about how priceless that vault really was. It wasn't just money, it was dirty laundry, years of blackmail material, and leverage over the city's major players, all of it gone forever. When John smiles at the damage, Viggo rewards him with a hard smack across the face. He rants about karma, about the cursed life they both chose, and how John thought he could start fresh, only for God to take his wife and unleash him on his former associates again.
This life follows you, clings to you. If infecting everyone comes close to you. We are cursed, you and I.
John doesn't exactly disagree, but that's where the common ground ends. Even tied up and beaten, he still demands Iosef's head. Viggo snaps back that it was just a fucking car and just a fucking dog. That's when John finally says what the dog really was. Helen's final gift, a ray of sunshine when he had already lost all hope.
In that moment, I received some semblance of hope. An opportunity to grieve unalone.
Then Iosef showed up, and the rest became history. John gives him the ultimatum straight. Hand over your son or die screaming alongside him. Viggo walks away, leaving Kirill and another henchman to suffocate John with a plastic bag. Before they can finish, Marcus headshots the other man from a rooftop, giving John just enough time to break free. Kirill jumps in, and the fight turns desperate immediately. Both men wrestle and swing with everything they have. Kirill traps John in chokeholds again and again, but John keeps tearing himself loose. Finally, John reverses the fight, wraps a leg lock around Kirill's head, and suffocates him to death. The next thing Viggo sees is Baba Yaga appearing out of nowhere and blasting shotgun rounds into his vehicle. Viggo surrenders right away, pleading for his life by offering Iosef's location. The $2 million bounty on John's head is also canceled as part of the deal. Hours later, John stands outside the Brooklyn safe house where Iosef is hiding. He drops one patrol guard from behind, takes a sniper rifle, and starts clearing the rest from a distance, including Iosef's remaining idiot friend, who somehow thought playing Call of Duty right now was a good idea. Terrified out of his wits, Iosef runs downstairs only for John to detonate the nearby vehicles by remote control. Now the last man standing, Iosef doesn't keep standing for long. One bullet hits him in the ribs from afar. The next goes into his skull up close. End of story. Back in New York, Viggo smokes a cigar and receives the news of his son's death with a stoic face. John, meanwhile, finally checks out of the Continental. Sharon even gives him the keys to a brand new Dodge Charger as an apology for Miss Perkins almost killing him on hotel grounds. That evening, John meets Marcus, who teases him about having saved his ass countless times already. John appreciates it, of course. Marcus says goodbye, but not before advising him to find his way back to the clean life he fought so hard to win years ago. Neither of them notices Miss Perkins watching from a distance, still holding a grudge against both men despite Viggo canceling the booty. On his way home, Marcus realizes too late that Viggo's men are stalking him. Soon, he's being beaten bloody while Viggo takes every ounce of his frustration out on him. Iosef thought money could buy him any car he wanted. Viggo thought the same thing, that $2 million could buy a friend's loyalty. That arrogance cost Iosef his life, and Viggo his son. Now, Viggo needs somewhere to dump the rage. Knowing he's done for, Marcus decides not to take it lying down. He elbows one man, disarms another, and tickles them both with bullet holes before Miss Perkins' pistol puts a full stop to his last stand. Viggo finishes the job himself. Afterward, Viggo calls John, thanks him for giving Iosef a quick death, and reveals that Marcus is gone. John makes a 360 turn on his way home ASAP. Minutes later, 100 different colors of emotion cross his eyes as he finds his friend lying freshly dead on the floor. Outside, Miss Perkins has been lying in ambush and is almost ready to make her move when Karen calls her. Soon, she meets Winston somewhere isolated, and the Continental's manager wastes no breath revoking her hotel membership. By attacking John and killing Harry on hotel grounds, Miss Perkins broke the one rule this world actually respects. For that, she earns herself a bullet from every direction. And of course, old Charlie is there for a late-night dinner reservation. With that pest handled, Winston calls John and indirectly points him toward Viggo's escape plan, a helicopter waiting at a certain helipad. John cuts Viggo off on the road in his new Dodge Charger, and a Need for Speed Underground-style chase explodes from there. He forces one SUV off the highway, then rams Viggo's vehicle again and again, while Viggo laughs in desperate amusement, and Avi begs someone to hand him a gun. The chase ends when John makes the enemy crash into an obstacle. Viggo sends his 4 passenger guards after him, but that only buys a few more bodies. John dodges Mr. 1's bullet shower, reverse slams into him, and shoots him through the car roof. Mr. 2 doesn't last either, while Mr. 3 gets sandwiched like square cheese between 2 vehicles. Mr. 4 tries taking cover and firing from a distance, so John simply drives over and smokes him right there. Finally, Viggo hands his gun to Avi and Charity. Too bad Avi's aim sucks, and soon he's down for the count as well. Just then, Viggo slams into John's car from behind, trying to shove him off the highway. John barely crawls out through the window in time before his undamaged car gets a further upgrade by crashing all all the way down. Viggo steps out, and John is ready to wish him luck with a bullet or two when Viggo calls for a knuckle-to-knuckle barehanded fistfight. John accepts and throws his carrot away. Viggo starts with quick jabs to test the waters, but once the real back and forth begins, John still has the edge. So Viggo pulls out a pocket knife as backup. Nobody said anything against knives earlier, did they? John lets Viggo stab him in a non-vital spot in the stomach, then uses that opening to break the man's elbow and drive the knife back into Viggo's neck. The two bid one last polite farewell, and John limps away into the rain. Not long after, the injured John breaks into an animal shelter, where he staples his knife wound shut and patches himself up with whatever medical supplies he can find. Afterward, he remembers that his previous puppy is long dead. Why not grab this chance to steal a fancy new one? That's Baba Yaga for you, the only guy with the audacity to flip the city's underworld upside down over a dog's death, only to adopt a new one by the end. With great difficulty, John finally stumbles his way back home, a cute little American pit bull terrier trotting beside him and keeping him company every step of the way.